So there's this big reform movement going on. It's been going on the last 10 or 15 years. And the heart of it is this notion that the school system is broken. We're falling behind internationally. We're low standards, mediocrity. And that's what's driven a lot of the reforms, charter schools, test-based accountability, higher standards. The folks who are opposed to a lot of that stuff say that that's hogwash, actually, that the school system has really improved quite a bit in the last 30 years, and that the United States was always in the pack when you compare internationally. So it's actually a question, it's a debate, and the truth probably lies somewhere in the middle. But there's no question one of the driving forces behind trying to improve schools is the achievement gap between wealthier students and poor students, and Black and Latino students and white students. And there's a gaping gap there, and that's been one of the big drivers, particularly for reform in urban America, to try to improve the schools that poor kids and minority kids go to. There really is no better place. I mean, for a lot of reasons. First of all, we have most of the minority, low-income student population, and there's been a huge effort over the last 10 or 15 years to try to improve the school system. Lots of experimentation. First, Arne Duncan, who's now the U.S. Education Secretary, was the school CEO for, I think, 8 or 9 years. And he tried a lot of the things in Chicago that he then went on to use as the head of the U.S. Department of Education, like closing failing schools, turning around failing schools. He tried a lot of aggressive things, which he's now trying on the national stage. And then we had Rahm Emanuel elected mayor in 2011, and he's squarely in what we call the reformers camp. You know, he's pro-charter schools, pro-high standards. He lengthened the school day. He's really interested in trying to sort of break the mold for traditional schools and try something new. So there's been a ton happening in Chicago to observe. There's no issue more important to most people than the quality of the school that their kid goes to. So I always cringe a little bit when it's, we talk about it as a political issue, because it's, when I'm out reporting on education, I'm in the schools, I'm talking to teachers. I'm not really talking to politicians that much, because often when politicians get involved, it's sometimes you lose the connection with what's actually happening in the classroom. But there's no question in the mayor's race, it's a huge, I think it's probably the decisive issue for why Chuy Garcia has got Rahm Emanuel into runoff. And on the federal level, it's always a big issue, especially since under Obama, the federal government has taken a much more activist role in education policy. So there's no question it'll be a big issue in 2016. One of the great things about education is everybody has been a student, and particularly for college students, their educational experience in primary and secondary school is not so recent. So I'm really curious to hear what they think. What do they think about standardized testing? What do they think about the idea of charter schools? What do they think about paying teachers bonuses if they raise test scores? Like, how does that jive with their personal experience as a student? I don't get to hear, I try as much as I can to talk from a student perspective, but that's something I'm really looking forward to, hearing what they think from their own practical experiences, whether that makes sense.